one. So I pulled a card for you guys, and the card I received was number 29. It says connections, and at the bottom it says partnership, contract, commitment. For this particular card, the first thing that I'm noticing is the hand almost touching this crystal that is being held by who I perceive to be as you. And I'm seeing that specifically as a helping hand. I'm also hearing a helping hand of justice, and so it feels like this new connection. And well, if it doesn't necessarily feel like a new connection. It feels like a returning connection. So this is either a returning connection with someone that you already know, a returning connection of someone that you know in a spiritual level, or a returning connection when it comes to someone of spirit, specifically of spirit. I feel some sort of, I don't know if resentment is necessarily the word, but you know, like sometimes you get in those funks, like a funky mood, and if something just doesn't seem to be working out in the way that you want, or it's kind of happening in just, I don't know, it's just like, it feels like some sort of like mood. There's some sort of mood from the past that's being healed. And how do I really explain this? You know, it's kind of like, okay, like with spirit, I guess. And so sometimes it's like you want something to happen, or you want to have some sort of connection with spirit itself, and then it's this kind of like frustrating feeling of like, God, do you hear me? Guardian angels, do you hear me? Like, what's going on? That kind of thing. And so there's that kind of like funky mood. That's what I'm talking about. And so it's this feeling like, you know, with the hand barely touching, it's like, I'm right here. I'm right here. You're about to receive this blessing. Like, you're about to feel me. You're about to feel this connection. You're about to have this connection, right? And it's what I see with like these stones here, this crystal, what I'm seeing as them like holding this out is this feeling like those are my requests, those are my prayers, those are my hopes, these are my dreams, these are my passions, this is what I'm putting out there, right? And it feels like the fact that these are of nature, because they're defining what you have here. You know, like some stones can be lab created now, and they're defining this, and they're taking out whatever was lab created out of your hand. They're taking that out and putting in only natural. And so it's this feeling of like, when you have something that's natural, think about the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years potentially that is taken to create such a stone, right? Something that's lab created, they're bringing me back, but they're bringing me back technologically, right? And it's like, that still took a very long time to get to whatever kind of advancement they got in order to know how to create those particular things. But the sheer magnitude of the difference in time is a really big deal. And so they're looking at, they're pointing that out in like the perception. They're putting it, and okay, wow. So they're putting in perception, and they're saying how you can look at this in terms of like the soul connection, or it's not just the soul connection with you and whomever this other being is, other individual or whoever it is. They're showing it in terms of like the soul's growth and how long it took you to become who you are in this moment of eons and eons. As you know, if you wanted to put it in terms of being a human being, let's just say, I mean, you obviously probably were not a human being most of the time, but if you put it in that timeline, that kind of concept, right, what that would look like, because they're connecting you and this individual and how like long standing this connection is, and how it's meant to connect. Because as you see how it's like already starting to charge so much energy, there's this feeling of what you put out has been received, because it's like you're expanding your light, by putting out what you have and what you've become and who you are and what you desire. So the energies are able to come in. This energy is able to find you, right? From an energetic level, it's able to find you. You're able to match each other's vibe. You're able to receive it. And they're also pointing out in an example of like how it's like when people, like if someone crosses over, for example, or just like spirits in general, and once you're more attuned to what that looks like, the more that you'll be able to receive it, right? It's kind of like that feeling like when people want a sign from someone who's crossed over or something, and they want it very specifically, they're very controlling about it, or they just don't believe in that. And so even if it's occurring in a way that spirit's able to bring it in, it's like your human mind, your fears, and because ultimately it's rooted in fear of saying, well, it's not exact, I'm looking for exact. It's like trying to control so that you get exactly what you're looking for in that. And so it's that feeling of it is happening, it is occurring, but you have to meet a little bit. You have to at least like expand. You have to be a little bit more open-minded in this. And so in doing that, that's relinquishing that control in some way. And so in relinquishing some of that control, then you're able to really like operate and move more in a spiritual manner than it is in a more controlling manner, because controlling is the opposite of spiritual, right? And so it's that translates over into any type of connection, really, where it's you relinquishing some sort of control over the situation, like exactly how it's going to come about. And there's this acknowledgement of it actually is happening exactly the way that you perceived it. But once it happens, then you could reflect on it and be like, oh, it did happen that way, but the way that I was making it make sense in my mind makes it appear different, if that makes sense, right? So like for just one quick example is like a plane, right? It's like you see a UFO, you think, oh, like before planes existed, is like I see flying objects where we can be transported around, and then it ends up, that we make planes. Like he's like, I can see people flying around, whatever, and then the plane's like, oh, so we are still flying around, but we're just flying within a plane. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's a huge emphasis also on your guides coming through of saying like, we're not going to make you, like, you're not supposed to fall. Like, you're not going to fall. We're holding you. Like, you're not going to crash. There's not a crash landing here. There's not this feeling of like complete injustice. There's not a complete feeling of like disharmony. It's like, we have the solutions. We're providing you with the solutions. You're not going to crash and fall. You're okay. You're fine. We're protecting you. We're protecting that from happening. Yeah, it might feel like a little bit of a dip of feeling unfair, feeling that frustration, but that's just a feeling. That's not the reality of it. And so they want you to feel that blessing in what's occurring, and also that ability to be able to sense the good that's coming, and the good that's here, and the good that's, well, they just emphasize here again as like now, the good now. I am seeing an emphasis on 7, so I don't know if that's 7 months. If 7 months maximum, that's something supposed to occur here. Also something to do with the pinky finger for someone. That's a specific message. There's something to do with the pinky finger that's being emphasized here. They're saying don't give in. That's the advice here, is don't give in to the weight of your prayers. It's this feeling of, you know, sometimes that can be to your own mental detriment in focusing on whether or not the prayer is answered. It will always be answered if it's meant for you, right? And when it is answered, it will occur at the time it's meant to occur for you. Everything's going to happen at the time it's meant to happen for you. And so focusing on the prayer itself of whether or not it's here or it isn't can add more weight or frustration, or even this feeling of kind of like needing to, it's like, because I kind of feel like the nostalgia of like how much time may have passed, but then it's also the acceptance. But the acceptance feels like I have to accept it. It's not like you're doing it in a more appreciative and loving and excited way. It's more of like, well, I have no choice but to accept it. So it's more begrudgingly. And so there's an indication of not to do things begrudgingly. Do your best to maintain that positive attitude, and also tune into the energy and see how that, it's like the lab created stones are being pulled from your environment, and how it's being replaced with natural ones. There's also a Greek connection here for someone. That's something that's coming in. Some sort of Greek connection. Like maybe there's something from ancient Greece. Okay, so I'll just pull real quick one more and see any final messages. Conscious steps reversed, considered action, looking forward. It's number 26 reversed. Yeah, it again, of that nostalgia feeling. Just try your best not to fixate on the time that's passed, or looking back too much. And also not really looking too far ahead either. Just being present, just being aware of where you're at right now. And for some of you, if you are watching a lot of pick a card readings, they are asking, your guides are asking you to maybe temper that, because that may be keeping you in some sort of, it's kind of like this feeling of this energetic loop where, again, you're focusing on the stone, then you are focusing on the hand. So you may not be able to feel that connection, a direct connection, because you're going to, it's not necessarily going to outside sources. It's more of like you're putting more emphasis, too much emphasis, on what other people are saying than your own personal experience, if that makes sense. It's like the whole thing of, moderation. you'll get more impactful messages if you temper that and just be more present in what you're experiencing, because in that you'll feel it and know it a lot more clear, so that if you do go and watch these pick a card readings, then you will see that it does, like, how deeply it validates things. And it's not going to keep you in this feeling of distance. It's not going to keep you of this feeling of lack, because you will be able to perceive just how close this energy is to you. Because your guides do, there is a reason for why you're reflecting back. So they're saying is like there is a purpose for that, because they're showing me that in this card where there's transparency in her dress and you can see the stones of where she's walked. So that's what they're highlighting here, is that they do want you to some degree to reflect on that, but in a more productive way than in a destructive way. And there seems to be where you know, there's a fine line on that, and in certain moods you may have tripped onto the more destructive way. So this is more of just encouragement for you of remembering that they're not ever going to let you completely fall flat on your face. The connections here, it's a lot closer than you think. It's more about just keep maintaining that energy, that positive energy, that and that prayerful energy. And because when you focus on something that's more lower vibrational, then that's going to dim your light and it's going to dim your focus. And just imagine the weight of the stones getting heavier and heavier, and she has to lower her hand, right? When the other hand is just right there. So you don't want to lower your hand. You don't want it to get too heavy, and you don't want to dim your light. So it's just encouragement to keep going forward. And you hear there's also this feeling, because I heard I heard like a knight, and the was it the sword? He's like pulling the sword. I was like, shing. I'm hearing that, but I'm hearing it in the perspective of like you're able to hear when something happens, when there's also like danger, like when something really is wrong, you know, and you feel misguided or something's amiss. You're going to be warned of that. You're going to hear that, and it's going to be instinct to kind of fix that, change course or whatever. And so there's that feeling of just, because they're showing the sword like that, but then they're showing me in the perspective like you're an animal. And so it's instinctual, it's instinct to be able to know that that's not a natural sound and that you may potentially be in danger. And so be the animal, like in its own environment, be at peace, doing what it is that feels natural to you, feels right for you. If something happens that occurs that's not right, you're going to be alerted to it, and you'll have plenty of time to adjust. And not only that, but you're not going to have to think about it. You're fine. You're not going to have to think about it. So just keep focusing your attention on what it is that you desire, and keep moving with that, because this is a very auspicious card. It's a really good card. So anyway, that's what I see for you guys, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.